If you've spent any time at all looking at film photography on YouTube, I'm sure you've seen this film stock. Honestly, seeing other people's results from shooting CineStill 800 is a large part of the reason for me first picking up a film camera. So obviously, it's one of the first rolls I had to go and shoot for myself. I put a roll through my Pentax Spotmatic. Most of the shots you'll see in this video are shot on a 55mm f1.8, except for a few experimental ones that I'll show you right at the end. I started off the roll by taking a few test shots around my house. I saw this cloud above the trees that kind of looked like a bird, and there were some swallows flying around at the time, so I was trying to get them both together in a photo. It didn't quite work. The 55mm is definitely too wide to catch some birds, unfortunately. But later that day, I took my camera along to a dinner with some friends, and on the way to the dinner, we saw some geese lining up nicely at the park, so I took a shot of that. And I also managed to get a shot of this construction shack covered in graffiti that I quite like. The trees in the background are a little bit busy, but the light is just great. After the dinner, we went to the city to find as much red neon as we could to really get the most out of this roll. But not before I tried to get a portrait in front of this glass wall that had some interesting backlighting and completely f***ed up my camera settings by not having the correct aperture. Okay, now the hunt for neon was really on. The first bit I found was this vinyl store. I tried to add some interest by layering these blurry bikers in front. Then we arrived at the nightlife part of the city, where there was red neon all around for us to shoot. Also, at this point, it might be good to tell you that if you're planning on shooting this stock at night, I would definitely recommend that you bring a tripod. I didn't, and all of the shots I took here at night are handheld. Some of these shots came out a little blurry because I had to shoot them at the forbidden unholy shutter speed of 1/15 of a second. A lot of these shots are really not great, but there's a few that I got that are not that bad. Here's one of my girlfriend looking like a snack. Do people still say that? At some point we wandered into a street at the edge of the nightlife area, where I got some of the best photos on the roll. These next three shots are all within just a few meters of each other. First, I spotted this bar with an open window that perfectly framed this guy playing foosball. Then, turning 90 degrees to the right of that, there was this very dramatic looking toilet just in the middle of the street. I really like this shot. I'm only a little bit sad that I slightly missed focus on it. And then on the opposite side of the street, we found this framed menu that was lit up in red. I really love how this portrait came out. It's so moody and dramatic. And then we finished off our walk by just taking a bunch of random photos around the city. I did get this absolute banger. The reflections on the cobblestones were just fantastic. Shout out to my lab for saving this one, by the way, because you can tell from the grain in the shadows that they really tried their best. This one was shot at 1.8 at 1/15 of a second, so I'm really pushing it to its limits. I did get one shot on the roll that had some weird static on it, or maybe it's aliens, who knows. I'm just glad it happened on a bad photo. Alright, now onto the experimental part of the roll. I slapped on this ridiculously large 200mm lens, grabbed my tripod and my cable release, and went out to take some long exposure shots. Now, I'll just come right out and say it, these didn't really work. And to be fair, that's probably all my fault, because when I went out to shoot these photos, I had no idea about reciprocity. When you're taking long exposure shots, film gets progressively less sensitive to light the longer you expose it, so you need to compensate for that, which I didn't do. But in general, I think long exposure shots on this film stock might not work as well to begin with. If I would have exposed it even longer, you would have had more of this halation, and I'm not sure I like how that looks. I also think that my compositions weren't great. CineStill 800 might not lend itself to long exposures that well, because the halation gets kind of crazy if you take like a 20, 30, 40 second exposure. There's one shot that could have worked. That is this shot of the train going by, but right before this train showed up, there was a boat that went across the water underneath the bridge, so the light reflection on this water ripple doesn't quite do it for me. I did also use the 200mm, by the way, to get this shot of me spying on a cat across the street. So yeah, in conclusion, I do really recommend this film stock. Definitely go and try it for yourself. Some quick technical details. It is Kodak Vision 3 film that has been processed by CineStill to be able to be developed using the C41 process. So you can just hand it in at any lab. If you're going to shoot it at night, bring a tripod. If you're going to shoot it during the day, some people recommend that you use a yellow filter, like an 85B, to kind of balance it out, because this film stock is initially made for tungsten light and not daylight. Out of all the shots on the roll, I think these are my favorites. I gotta be honest, I don't like it quite as much as CineStill 400D. I made a video about that recently, you can go watch that one, and I will see you on the next one.